These little cute bowl covers is my lesson in my class tomorrow. And I figured I'd just do a quick little tutorial on here and show you guys how I did it. I grabbed 2 fat quarters and I'm laying them pretty side to pretty side. And I got my bowl off from my stand mixer, but you could use any bowl that you're wanting to make the cover for. Now I turn my bowl upside down and I make sure that I leave plenty of room all the way around it, because I'm going to mark this, but then we're going to measure out, because obviously we want it to come down on the side of our bowl. Okay, now that I have it marked, we're going to get a ruler. I know I want mine to come down about 2 inches on the side, including the little ruffle. So I'm going to cut my circle about 2.5 inches bigger. Okay, I'm going to place the 2.5 inch mark on my previously drawn out line, and I'm going to just go an inch or so ever so often and mark. That way I have a perfect 2.5 inch circle all the way around the outside. I made my marks close enough together where I don't really need to connect them with the chalk. I can just take my scissors and cut it out. But I'm going to go ahead and secure my 2 pieces together with some pins before I start cutting. Now that I have my circle cut out, I'm going to just take a marker, or you could take pins or clips or whatever. But I'm just going to mark a little section here so that I remember to leave this gap open, because I'm going to have to turn this thing in just a minute. I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch seam all the way around, and don't forget at the beginning and over here when you end to back stitch. Now that I have that sewn all the way around, leaving my opening, I'm going to take my pinking shears and I'm going to cut all this excess off as close to that seam as I can get without cutting it off. If you don't have pinking shears, you can just take your scissors and cut this to about 1/8 of an inch off, and then go back in with a pair of snips. And every so often you can just do a little snip, making sure not to cut your stitches. This is going to allow it, when we flip it, it's going to allow the curve to look smoother by doing this step. Now that this step's done, we're going to flip it inside out, or right side out actually. Now I'm going to use a chopstick to just run along the edge here, pushing out my seam. And then I'm going to take it over and iron all the way around it to make it nice and crisp. And then I'm going to push this in on both sides and then iron that as well. Now I'm using some pins to mark my opening, because this part, this seam that we're going to put on is going to make our ruffle, so the elastic won't go through this channel that we're making. So it is going to have a gap left in there as well for right now. So just remember not to close it all the way up as you go here. Now I found that to make the perfect length for my little ruffle that I like, I put my presser foot down. I just have a regular, this is like a zigzag foot, I guess. And I have my needle go all the way to the left as far as it'll go. And that gives me a good size little ruffle that I want. So that's, you can make yours a little bit bigger if you want, but that's the size that I like mine to be. I'm going to be using 1/2 inch elastic in mine, so I need to make a 1/2 inch wide channel, maybe just a thread or two bigger than 1/2 an inch, so that it can thread through there nicely. But this one, when we make this seam, we're not going to leave an opening. This one goes all the way over to completely close off. So I will find my halfway mark and use the edge of my ruler, or the edge of my foot, to go along our other stitch line here to make my channel for my elastic to sit in. Now that we have our channel sewn for the elastic, now we're going to measure for the elastic. I feel like maybe like a little over halfway around the bowl is good. And then, of course, you got to stretch it, make sure that it's going to be secure, because you can always trim some off if this isn't tight enough once you get it done, but you can't add more technically. So that's where we're going to cut it off at. Okay, I like to use a safety pin to feed mine through. You can feed yours through however you normally do stuff like that, but I'm going to feed it through that channel that we created for that. And as I go, I'm going to try to make sure I keep it flat all the way around. And I'll be right back as soon as I get this threaded. Okay, now that it's threaded through, I'm just going to overlap it just a little bit, and I'm going to put this pin or safety pin or whatever it is through, because I'm just going to test and make sure that it fits the way I want it to fit, like this. Okay, and then I'm going to pull this on around. Let's go test. That looks like it fits pretty well how I want it to fit. Now for this part, some people will tie this in a knot. Some will just sew it. I like to take a little scrap piece of fabric, and I want to make sure they're overlapping, and then I kind of wrap the scrap fabric around it, and then I take it over to the machine and I do a couple zigzags to secure it in place. Okay, now that I have that secured, it doesn't have to look pretty because it's going to be inside. I put a bunch of zigzags just to hold it together. Now, I like to keep this side flat until I get everything closed up. So I'm going to find my stitch line where my channel starts here, and I'm just going to sew that little channel closed, and then I'm going to take a very small top stitch and close this off as well. Okay, at this point all you do is just pull your elastic and your fabric around till you get it scrunched all the way around. And I know it looks small, but I promise it's going to fit. And look how cute that is. It even has enough room to push down, so the little bar that comes down on your stand mixer can sit on there. And then because I use two different fabrics, it's reversible. So you have two different looks. And really, it probably took me maybe 10 minutes longer than the actual filming of this video to do it. So it's a very quick little project.